I am your servant, YouTube. I am your servant, everyone. Ah, but would Lesterson listen? Anyway, please welcome my regular guest, Coqui Pirate.
Hey, this is Coqui Pirate, and can I just say the governor has nothing on Negan?
Okay. And James, me old China.
Hello there, this is James Escroft, Ujames 1978.
I meant to address you both as me old China, but never mind. It's the ever increasing cockneyness of Ben. In any case, slight change of format, people. I'm now going to begin with brief synopses and appraisals. Today, of course, we're discussing Power of the Daleks, written by David Whittaker and Dennis Spooner, directed by Christopher Barry. The synopsis is: Ben and Polly have just witnessed the Doctor change, but Ben believes he is an imposter. On the planet Vulcan, the Doctor witnesses the murder of an examiner set to check on the human colony. The Doctor assumes his identity in order to investigate. Lesterson, a scientist, has discovered a crashed space capsule that turns out to contain Daleks. They claim to be servants to the colonists, but can they be trusted? And are there really only 3 of them? My appraisal would be a strong Dalek story, high on fans' wish list for missing episodes to be found, Patrick Troughton's debut and the first time a new Doctor had to fill the shoes of another, ensuring the show's longevity by proving, albeit nervously, that it could be done. They had to go and get rid of it. In a recent fan poll, the serial ranked second best of Season 4 under the 10th Planet. I personally prefer Pat Troughton's other Dalek serial, Evil of the Daleks, but I can see why everyone loves this. As a recon job, this must be an early effort, as it seems a bit rough. The telesnaps are sometimes confusing, and you needed annotations to explain exactly what's happening, and the audio needs a clean. So, Coqui Pirate, as ever, this is your first time watching this serial. What are your thoughts?
Well, the whole idea that there's a hidden evil, that the Doctor is aware of it, and no one believes it. I don't think well, actually, I have seen it before in the new series, and it often goes in the form of, when the Daleks were introduced in the new series, but also, more recently, the idea of this paranoia that the Daleks are evil, no one believes them. In this case, he's right, and it must be like a really isolating feeling, to know that there's pending danger, while no one else seems to acknowledge it. But I also sort of bear this in mind that the Doctor also, over time, develops not an irrational, but perhaps an overactive hatred and paranoia of the Daleks, which I'm assuming isn't really a thing in the old series, but I do like how that can be experimented with. As far as the Doctor regenerating, I had no idea that the China was a Cockney. Well, I guess it would have to be a Cockney thing, or I knew it was a British thing. But yes, there was some dialectical stuff.
Yeah.
But yes, overall, I thought this was a really, good way to start off the new Doctor. I enjoyed it.
Aha, excellent. And some interesting facts about the. You know what? They say renewal. I said that they said rejuvenate, but I didn't spot rejuvenate. But the Doctor's renewal, which he actually attributes to the TARDIS, a few different things there. The clothes change with him. That never happens again. He looks in the mirror and sees an old Doctor staring back. That's creepy and never happens again. They were going to write it that the Doctor would go to bed and wake up and just be a different person inexplicably, but chose to do a visual effect instead. And something that they don't make clear, one of several things that needed annotations with the telesnap reconstruction. When Ben says the Doctor always wore this, what he does is to place the Doctor's ruby ring, which was actually mentioned in a couple of the Web Planet and Dalek's Master Plan. The ring features as a plot point, and it falls off the second Doctor's finger because obviously he's got smaller fingers, and that's supposed to prove something. Another unclear thing was it actually looked like the Doctor killed the Examiner. But anyway, James, I can tell you're champing at the bit. Your thoughts on this serial?
First of all, we just have, when they say the planet Vulcan, we have to add the caveat, no, not that one. So,
Indeed. No Vulcans in this.
And yes, overall a good serial. Polly was pretty much a third wheel, as demonstrated by the fact that she was kidnapped halfway through. But can we say the scientist who refuses to listen because he's obsessed with his breakthrough, his project, the tin pot little Hitler, and oh yes, the last 50 evil, stupid people who were exterminated because they tried to strike a deal with the Daleks or thought that they could somehow use them to their own advantage. Their problem was that they weren't evil and stupid enough. I'm just watching this thinking, haven't you seen the rest of the series?
Actually, on a serious note, haven't they ever, have we stopped teaching history in school by this point? Because Vicky knew about the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Yeah.
So these people have forgotten that their planet was ever occupied by these fuckers. I mean, come
Oh,
on.
yeah, I was confused about the chronology. I thought this was before the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Oh, no, it couldn't have been, because this is a very sophisticated, well-populated colony at some point in the future, whereas Dalek invasion of Earth, there was no sign of any kind of space technology. Well, I suppose the Daleks had destroyed it all by that point, but, well...
The only change is they've gone over to nuclear power.
Yeah. That's a difficult thing, but yes, overall, I'm judging the story based on the fact that the key tropes which I mentioned there. I don't want to put Coqui off, but it's a bit of a bugbear when you're having the same storyline over and over again. Well, not the same storyline, but the same basic tropes over and over again. But as a story, it was particularly well written. I like the whole idea of the imposter. I'm trying to figure out what to make of Jalen, the woman who pretends to be a rebel, but she's working for Bragan, who is the leader of the rebels. Oh, it's so convoluted. My first thought that she was kind of a Lady Macbeth character, but in the end she is redeemed. She does turn against Bragan, but she is killed. Everyone's killed aside from Valma and Quinn, obviously, because he's the new governor. But yes, I'm trying to think. As I say, Polly was a bit of a fifth wheel in this. Oh God, that line that must have rubbed you up the wrong way, Coqui, when she was being held hostage by the bulls. You're really tough pushing a girl around. I can't wait to see what happens when you face a real man like Ben.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up later. This stuff. Well, at this point, I'm kind of tuning it out because it would be redundant to bring it up every single time, but I guess it's worth bringing up.
Oh, yes, that's the thing. Ben's supposed to be the man's man type character. You always call him the Captain Kirk, but no, it doesn't really suit. Oh, yes, and the constant question, why don't we just go back to the TARDIS? In the original, in the very earliest days of Doctor Who, right, throughout the Ian and Barbara serial, basically, the main premise, the main plot point was that the TARDIS was always blocked off, inaccessible in some way, shape, form, or fashion, being buried in rubble, trapped in an Aztec tomb, held in a force field until they've collected all of the microkeys or whatever they were on Marinus, etc., etc. But now the question repeatedly, why don't we just go back to the TARDIS? because the Doctor feels it is his heroic duty to. Oh, and something else. Well, not wishing to spoil. Something else we'll see a lot during the Patrick Troughton era. Well, that isn't really the case. But they always leave at the end quickly for some reason. It's in this case, it's we better leave before they send us the bill. The Doctor saved the colony, huzzah! But he completely destroyed their power supply in the process. Boom. So,
double-edged sword, yeah.
exactly. And as Ben put it, I wasn't expecting a brass band or anything, but a thank you would have been nice.
Saving everybody's life, yes. Going back to the point about tropes, of course. That this is 2 serials in a row that had an obsessed person in power losing their mind.
Oh, as I say, that is a constant bugbear with the Patrick Troughton era in general. As I say, the tin pot little Hitler, the scientist who refuses to listen to reason because he is obsessed with his project, losing his mind, etc., etc. As I say, I'm doing my best not to put Coqui off, but for God, it becomes the new Barbara almost getting raped every week, but not quite. But even more irritating. Maybe it's just me, but as I say, as an early example of this, although the tropes are there, it is still very well written into the story. It's not simply like some of the later episodes, Inferno, where the entire problem is just knock him out. Just shut him up and shut it down, and the problem solves itself.
You're only saying that because you know I love Inferno.
No, I'm not saying that only. I'm saying it because it's one of the worst serials ever. But
in your opinion?
In my humble opinion. But
you can't see me poking my tongue out right now.
But still, as a story, this was well constructed. The sexist bullshit from Ben was. It was from Ben and Polly. Sorry, it was Polly doing it this time, waiting for her white knights to come and save her. Yeah. Oh, Ben will come and save me. Yada yada yada. It was passable, as Coqui says, we tune it out at this point. It's like Barbara being raped, almost being raped every serial. It's just what they do. But thinking about Ben and Polly in this serial, especially the fact that Polly was a fifth wheel, just as she was in the 10th Planet, I think the main reason for that is that all of the other roles are taken up by the other characters, just as in 10th Planet, even though the General didn't like many personnel. There were so many characters in each story. It's very difficult. It would have been very difficult for the writers to give Ben and Polly a role, or a purpose. Of course, in the 10th Planet, Ben's role was much more direct. He was the man of action. But in The Power of the Daleks, just want to point out the wonderful little double entendre in the title there. Haha. In The Power of the Daleks, Ben was much more reduced to being the Doctor's conscience, for lack of a better term, his id, his hiago, whatever metaphor we wish to use. Just asking the questions that the audience was asking the Doctor, asking the Doctor anyway. Why aren't we going to save Polly? What are you doing? Why don't we just turn the power off, etc., etc., etc. Yeah.
I think another issue is the Doctor. This Doctor, I think, is more of an independent superhero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've talked about this.
Yeah.
We talked about this in An Adventure in Space and Time. Originally, Verity Lambert cast William Hartnell as the wise, grumpy old grandfather. C.S. Lewis meets H.G. Wells meets Father Christmas. So much of the action was delegated to Ian, Barbara, and Susan. He was basically the wise old grandfather advising them not to do this and not to do that, etc., to which they went off and did it anyway. So, yeah, as you say, he was very much the independent superhero, not necessarily making Ben redundant. He was more or less redundant in this story, but it's not as if it's not as if Ben and other future companions, looking forward to that, are going to be entirely redundant. It's just that, as you say, a younger actor, a younger character, the whole thing about him being a grandfather is now pretty much forgotten. His role is much more active and direct, or something else that's going to really bug me in the coming serials. His role isn't so much active and direct as it is warning people who don't listen to him and then crying, "Won't somebody please listen to me? Why won't anyone listen to me?"
As I said last time, Space Quincy.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. Actually, on the subject of Patrick Troughton's second Doctor, I'll go around again because obviously the story as it goes is people initially missed Hartnell, or or think it was like, very funny. We want the real Doctor, please. A bit like Ben and Polly, or particularly Ben, the real Doctor. This, of course, would have been broadcast over 6 weeks. By the end of it, Pat Troughton was the Doctor. Coqui, do you think, we know you weren't too keen on the first Doctor, is Troughton the improvement you were hoping for? I know you haven't got his mannerisms, just the voice and things, but based on what you get in Power, yes, of all the ones to lose. But, this is his debut. Your verdict on the second Doctor?
I'd rather withhold judgment until a bit later.
Oh. Yes,
okay.
Once he's seen... Again, I was going to say once he's seen a bit more, especially... and literally seeing more. Once Coqui... Once we've seen of some of his surviving serials.
It's odd how there are so many tiny little cine-film clips throughout this. So you just get, we're actually watching television. And it's 2 seconds of action.
That is actually a very good point, because the cine-film itself was actually very expensive. The fact that people were recording this, especially the first episode, demonstrates that yes, this was a watershed moment in television history. Because they were realized, just as people realized, oh my God, Stephen Taylor, Peter Purvis is leaving. They realized, oh my God, this is the new Doctor. I've got to save this for myself, or got to show this to my friends, or what have you. It might only have been a couple of people who did it, but it doesn't take that much to save a roll of tape, does it, BBC?
Yeah. But, I did think, about watching the first couple of episodes, I feared that Coqui would find the second Doctor annoying. But the thing is, when he's being very, very strange and he doesn't listen...
They do explain that very well.
He knew that they were bugged. That's he does that for a reason. And no, he won't be continually playing the recorder.
Thank God for that. That was my one major concern. I really didn't like that.
Yeah, we see the recorder again, but he's not going to be constantly. He's not a sprite always on the flute. But yeah, there was it was a gimmick to give him, just as they give him that rather bizarre hat, which he doesn't. Well, I don't know if he might wear it again, but he definitely doesn't continually wear it. And yes, but James, I've never really talked to you about how you rank the Doctor. Well, we know your favourite Doctor,
obviously.
But yeah, obviously you've seen all of these a couple of times before, but I don't know. Are you a Hartnell man or a Troughton man?
It's very difficult to compare them because, as I say, aside from the name of the program, the name of the character, excuse me. In the first episode, for example, the first two episodes, I do believe, well, the first part of the serial, in either way, he keeps referring to the Doctor in the third person.
Yes, that's very strange, isn't it? Again, they never do that again. Oh, the Doctor was quite a collector, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, but they do kind of explore the whole idea that each Doctor is a new life. So and memories being jumbled or what have you, etc. But even leaving that aside, though, the two characters are very different. And as I say, grandfather versus much more independent hero, or at the very least activist. The two roles themselves are very different. So comparing the two of them it isn't really possible. You can do it, but it's excuse me. It's like when Watcher Azazel once asked me to compare Farscape to Deep Space Nine. On what grounds can we do that? On what grounds am I supposed to do that? Yes, in the most superficial terms, the two series are similar, but fundamentally there is a major difference between them. And of course, as Coqui said, I've seen all of them a couple of times now, thrice I think, 3 times, but it's still very much, this is for Coqui, from Coqui's perspective, this is very much early days. Troughton hasn't really established himself as of yet. And to be honest, I think with both Hartnell and Troughton, the overarching point is the stories rather than the character, if you see what I mean. That the characters themselves, yes, they are individual personalities, but it's not until we get to Pertwee and later Tom Baker that the Doctor as a character is really established, an independent character separate from the stories. In the earliest days of both Doctor Who, of the Hartnell era and the Troughton era, it is much more about the story itself. I would almost go so far as to say that aside from the whole grandfather thing, the wise old man thing, Hartnell and Troughton are relatively interchangeable. And leaving the personality differences aside, Troughton, as we will see in the later serials, is much more of a clown, as he was described briefly in The Three Doctors. There are more kind of subtle comedy moments that I do absolutely adore in the later serials. Not part of the storyline, just a brief comedy, brief bits of visual comedy here and there, almost thrown in for a laugh. Almost as if Troughton was laughing at himself. But
I get the impression that Polly finds the new Doctor cute.
Yes, she seems to have a very trusting nature because both with the new Doctor and Quinn, the deputy governor who was arrested, suspected of knocking the engineer unconscious and sabotaging the communication system, she took it on trust. She took their story on trust, on faith. Yes, Troughton is the New York, and the Quinn is innocent because some people, you know that some people are all right just by looking at them. Again, not too sure about that. In the first instance, though, that was a very good counterpoint to Ben's very deep skepticism. Not only has his face changed, but he doesn't even behave like the old Doctor. His personality is entirely different.
Yeah.
So again, Polly being trusting because what could it be? How could and what other explanation is there? And Ben being incredibly sceptical in the first two episodes. That is a very good. The two positions beautifully counterbalance each other.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to open up the floor. Does anybody have anything to add about the serial?
I kind of like how I kind of like the political aspect. You don't know who's working for who. The doctors are coming in as a servant, even though they're secretly, plotting. And then you have the deputy governor who's planning on overthrowing things, or I do like the intrigue while still keeping the sort of fantastical sci-fi elements of it.
Yes. And as we said, this six-part has got a lot in it. It's quite convoluted, lots of character. Another reason why it would be great to see it live action, so you get the full benefit of the performances. Because our interpretations of these characters and their motivations and what have you could be so drastically different if only it were live action.
Mm-hmm. Also, it was pretty much everyone was under the impression that it was like a function of the TARDIS, that he ran into the TARDIS to regenerate, so that it would change his does he flip a switch or what?
Well, as I say, regeneration is a very different thing at this point, or rejuvenation, renewal, it's actually called. I think with the word renewal, you could even think, is this just meant to be a younger version of the same body? But no, the personality changes and he doesn't look like a young Hartnell, and it's a different ring size. Does he flick a switch? I don't think so. I guess he ran. You could interpret that he just ran to a place of safety. It's interesting because in the new series, and sometimes in the classic series later, the Doctor does regenerate, but not all the regenerations are in the TARDIS, but they can be. But he does actually. There's actually a line. The Doctor does attribute renewal to the TARDIS. He said it's part of the TARDIS. I couldn't survive without it. Very interesting because at the end of the 10th planet, the sound effect for the renewal is the same as the TARDIS engines. But at the beginning of Power of the Daleks, it's a whole different sound effect. They retconned it. So yeah, that's not much of an answer, but I think yes, renewal at this point is supposed to be something to do with the TARDIS. James, do you have any last thing to touch upon?
Oh, any final thoughts, I think is the term you're looking for. And yes, I can't believe I didn't discuss this earlier. The fact that just as the Daleks' master plan was the first time we saw the Daleks being political, using other species for their own benefit, this is the first time we ever see them being devious. They're not powerful enough to conquer the colony, to exterminate the humans straight out of the pod. They're dependent on the colony's power supply. They're dependent on Lesterson. So they feign obedience, as you said in your introduction. I am your servant. It just brings to mind a wonderful line in Stargate SG-1. Assault the Goa'ul's ego. Make him appear foolish. He may then tell you the things you wish to know simply to make himself appear more powerful. Oh, come on, Teal, they're too smart for that. I have seen many Goa'uld plans revealed, and certain victories lost because of Goa'uld arrogance. It is the Goa'uld's greatest weakness. And the Daleks as well. Of course, this was decades earlier, but this is something that I really would have wanted to see, instead of constantly screaming, "Oh no, they're evil! We must destroy them!" Just if Troughton had forced the Dalek to, because there are a couple of times, Daleks are not the same as Daleks are better than. Daleks are not the same as humans. Or my favourite, and then the Daleks will be even more useful.
Yes, trying to restrain the Dalekiness.
Exactly, to wit, if Troughton had mocked them. Yes, because you are stupid little servants, aren't you? You are inferior beings born to serve. Until the Doctor did finally snap. But no, that would have revealed the truth before Pinbottle Hitler could close his trap and execute his evil scheme to get control of the colony, blah, 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 blah. And but yes, it was an interesting new twist on the Daleks. First brute force originally, then politics, forming fake alliances, and then and now in this case deviousness, and then in Evil of the Dark. No spoilers, Coqui.
And actually, one more thing I'm going to point out. Pardon the new series reference, but Coqui, if you remember the not very good episode Victory of the Daleks in the Matt Smith era, there's the World War II one. At the beginning, the British think that the Daleks are their new war machine, and the Daleks, which I think that they're going by a different name, what they call Ironside. Yes, and there's a professor who's actually an android who believes he's working. So it's another Daleks pretending to be friends to the humans, and their catchphrase in that one was "I am your soldier." So Mark Gatiss just sort of rewriting the beginning of Power of the Daleks.
I had completely forgotten about that. Now I remember that you told me, but yeah.
Yeah, so that episode was fan wank, and then bollocks. But anyway.
That would have been another good. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. Isn't that all new Doctor Who? Sorry.
I'm reaching for the moth jar, for the moth jar. Sorry, Cope.
Hey, what I was saying is that episode might have been a good opportunity to reuse the line, "Why do humans kill humans?" The aliens looking from the outside in. I can't believe I didn't bring that up this podcast. I mean, yeah, it's something simple, but, it just, I guess it had an impact when I heard it.
Uh-huh. And an important thing before I forget, in the history of YouTube shows about Doctor Who, in the history of podcasts, in the history of the internet fandom, we have, in recording this podcast, done something unprecedented. Doing Doctor Who, as yet, because they're on hiatus, although they've been on hiatus for about 6 months now, only made it to the 10th planet. So, as in terms of people going through discussing each Doctor Who serial in order from the very beginning, we are the first and only people. to have made it this far.
Come on then, come at me, bro.
But yes, I think applauding ourselves will perhaps come across a little smug, but I do think this is, we've come a long way in these. I believe it's 29 weeks. Or is it 30 weeks by this point?
No, it'll be 31, including an adventure in space and time.
Wow.
29 Hartnell serials, the docudrama, and Troughton's first outing as the Doctor.
There you go.
Okay, so no one's made it past season 1 before?
No.
No one's made it. No one's made it past the first Doctor before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well I don't know why I said season 1. You're right, first Doctor.
Yeah. So I think what happens with doing Doctor Who is that the guest found the prospect of so many more recons a bit daunting. Whereas, as I said, actually, when I look at it on Wikipedia, it's not as bad as I thought. But as I say, we've just had a six-parter, and it's all missing. And next week it's a six-parter, and it's all missing. I think after that we get one that half exists.
Goodness. Well, at least it half exists.
I think the half that doesn't has been animated as well.
Okay. Do we get some existing ones after that though, in a row or?
Not in Troughton's first season, but we'll get through season 4 quickly enough, and then season 2 it's about half and half. Troughton's second season is about half and half, and by the time we get to his third and final season, it pretty much all exists. There's 2 animated episodes at some point, I think.
All right.
So we will get past the recon hump, and then obviously with Pertwee, there's literally nothing missing. There were some Pertwees that had lost their colour, but they've all been recolorised by this point. So we'll be in full colour and utterly complete.
I will endure.
You will endure. Good on you, my man.
And a lot of the Troughton era is brilliant. By the end of the Troughton era, you'll be like, oh fuck, that was good.
Yes.
Okay.
So, okie dokie, and okay, well, I think it's about time to wrap this up. So, Coqui, say something nice.
I didn't hate it. May the hamster of not hating be upon all of your heads.
And yes, and I have mixed feelings. I am looking forward to next week. On the one hand, it is good. On the other hand, it's another one where all 6 parts are recons. But, and although there's a reason why James will be particularly excited, and, James, now, I can't end this podcast until you said something nice.
Yes, although we have seen Tin Pot Little Hitlers and twice now obsessive little bureaucrats going insane twice now, and this is far from the end of those particular tropes. It is a great story in itself, as I say, a new side to the Daleks, alongside the political intrigue between within the colony's leadership. Overall, an excellent serial, an excellent start to Troughton's era, and may the great holy donkey bless Fraser Hines' house for 7 generations. You'll get that next week, Coqui.
Yes. Okay, so, well then, next week, the Highlanders.